Hello guys. So in this part of the course, we'll be converting our blockchain congress into a shareholder association which will have these following features. So in this structure, the ownership of the DAO will be represented by the token which will be called a share token, or indirectly it will be nothing but a shares of the organization. So in the previous example which we did just in the previous lecture, we tested out everything. We have a congress whose membership is presented by a simple membership structure where the members can be added or removed by the administrator. In this, what we are going to do is we're going to modify our this congress into the shareholder association where we will connect the existing token with the membership. So I'm going to just copy this whole thing here and created this shareholders dot or hyphen association dot sol file. I've just have to copy it again and then I'm pasting it. So I just pasted everything over here so that we can start modifying it. So rather than executing or writing from the scratch, we can actually extend our previous code. So first thing we need to do here is we need to ensure that the member part has been removed and the share part has been issued. To connect the shares, we need to first define the contract, which will be the token. Remember, we don't have to define the each and every aspect of the token over here because the token issuance and other part will not be managed by the DAO. Though this is optional, you can always add a issue shares and other part, but I'm just imagining that the token has been issued separately off the record outside the DAO through some either crowd sale or some other methods. So just for the sake of completeness, we are actually going to have a membership or balance of method declared over here so that we can check the balance of any user or any member easily. Simply we have this the way to declare the array and then call the balance of. That's it. So only this much line we have to declare. So what it means is that if we have an address and we typecast into in this type of contract, then we can access this variable very easily. So this is how you actually access a variable which is not available in the contract. Or you can say if you have an address of a contract and you want to access the variable of that contract, then you have to declare a variable like this of that contract and then map that address to this. So I'll just show you how it works. So roughly I'll just demonstrate it here in the comments. So for example, if you want to create a function, if you want to create a token, so you'll say token t is equal to typecast the token or particular whatever share address. So if you know that share address is actually a token which has the balance of method, then you will actually pass it here. You will typecast it into a token type and store it in T, which is another token type. So now using the T, you can access this variable like this. T dot balance of and whatever address, let's say whatever ABC, whatever address you have, then this will give you the balance of this particular address using for that particular shares. Remember, if you will not do like this, you will not be able to access the balance of variable. The only thing we are doing here is that we are actually trying to access the balance of the public variable of the share address which will be provided at the time of creation of this particular contract. So this is simple. We have done this and it's a very simple and straightforward. We will not touch this part. Next is we will call it a association or shareholding association. This part will remain as it is. Next is that member part, right? So since there are no members, we need to change that part. So remember that minimum quorum, the debating period in minute, the proposals, right, which is here, will remain there. Majority margin will also not be required because now everything will be on the shareholding part. We want shareholders to decide. Even if there is a zero margin, one margin or two margin, we don't care. So we don't want to set up the margin over here. So we have proposals over here which will be storing the list of proposal in the DAO, and then we have a number of proposals which will store the total number of proposals available. Now in this two part we need to remove and we need to add the particular called token public, and then shares token address. That's it. So this will become the address of the token, right? So next is when we say only members, it will become only shareholders. So we need to make sure that this only shareholders works well. So to work with shareholders, because now there is no member ID function available here, so what we'll do shares token address, whatever the token address, then balance of, and then you'll pass the inside the balance of, you'll pass the msg dot sender. So this is how you get the message or the address. So I think it should be square bracket. So if the balance of this is equal to 0, then this clearly means that the particular address is not the shareholder, and you should throw an exception. So this is simple. So this part is also done. So member, again, this is strictly not required now. Proposal will remain as it is because we want the proposal to be used. Vote will also remain as it is. We just don't want the member since, because it is again of no use now. Then shareholders we have already done. Then let's go to the Congress. So Congress needs to be renamed to association, right? So in the association, we need to make sure that we are also passing the shareholder address, the shareholding address, right? So we'll pass the shareholding address. So let's call it a address, shares address, right? And then the minimum quorum of proposal. So we'll call it a minimum shares to pass a vote. So minimum shares pass vote. And then we have the minimum minutes for debate. I think that's fine. Margin for vote for majority is not required. Leader, again, there is no leader, or we can actually put it at an administrator if we require, or we can create the sender as an administrator. So that's not a problem. So let's keep the sender or the Congress address as it is. Make it payable, because we might want to receive the fund using this. So we change the voting rules. So to change the voting rules, again, we need to pass the share address. So we'll do like this, share address, and then minimum shares to pass. So this has to go there, and then minimum, after the minimum shares to pass, we have the minutes for, sorry, the minutes for debate. Yes, minutes for debate is already there, and this margin is not required now. So I want to just remind you another time again that what we are doing, we are actually trying to modify our Congress blockchain or contract or Congress system into the shareholding DAO. So that's what we are trying. So remember, it's going to be, let's call it a leader. Just call it leader. So if leader is equal to 0, then message dot sender is equal to this. Otherwise, this leader will go over here. That's it. So it's just a temporary storing it into the admin. Remember, you might be thinking that if this is a shareholding organization, then why we need admin? So remember, admin might be used for changing the voting rules. You can definitely disable that part by actually changing the administrator to a 00 or a null address. That means nobody is the administrator now. So, so here we already have this, modified this. Now see, this add a member or all these things are not required because they have no value in this system. Again, the adding a member or removing a member is again not required, because issuing the shares is actually had been taken outside the DAO. So it can be a separate arrangement between you and other people, or you might want people to invest into this and get the shares, which can become a crowd sale contract. So I have already talked about it in a separate course. So if you are looking for understanding the crowd sale and you're looking to connect the crowd sale into the DAO, then you should check out my other course, how to build a crowd sale application in blockchain. So once the association part is done and it has been set, so we need to change the voting rules method as well. So voting rules method will have this shareholder share address. So let's call it like this, which will be of a token type, right? And the share address. Then minimum shares to pass vote, that will remain there, right? And then there will be a minutes for debate. So this majority is not required, and it has to be accessed by only admin. Next, what we need to do is we need to actually take the shares. So into this, we'll need to set the shares address token address by actually converting it into the token so that we can access the variable. Remember the balance of variable in the initial, we need to access that. So this part is like this. So we have updated it here, or we could have also done it here, but I think we have chosen to do it here. It's easy. And then we need to check if the minimum shares to pass vote minimum shares to pass a vote is equal to 0, because this might happen that somebody has set it to 0. So we need to make sure this is at least 1, and then that's it. So if it is set now we need to actually pass it into the quorum and minimum shares to convert the post. So this is simple. Now since it has been set minimum to 1, it will be transferred to the minimum quorum, and then minutes for debate will be transferred to debating periods in minutes. And again, this part is not required. So we have actually updated our change voting rules. Now we have a method share proposal, which will need the beneficiary ether amount, or sorry, new proposal method which will have beneficiary ether amount, the job description, and a transaction bytes. So again, this has to be done by the only member, so we'll call it a only shareholders. Returns proposal ID. Every other thing will remain the same because there is no change, nothing related to a member, right? Because we are just adding a vote into the system, we can just do it plain and simple. So it is just adding a proposal. So that's this part is also done. If you have, I think you have any question or doubt regarding why we are doing this, you can check out the previous lecture again and see why we have wrote like something like this. Next we need to do is we need to actually check the proposal code. So again, that part will not be require any changes, right? Because this is again this exactly the same, and the all other things will remain same. Next is the vote. So when the vote will happen, the proposal number will be given, whether supports or not, or a justification text. Again, justification text is again the optional thing. If we are having it in the vote, then it's fine. Other if we are not having in this vote, then it's a name and support. That's it. So we can actually skip the justification text if we want. That's again an optional thing. So when this particular things are happening, we can members will be replaced with the shareholders. So it means that vote can be only casted by the shareholders, and it will return the vote ID. So next is simple. We just taking the proposal number and took out the entire proposal object. And if the particular sender has already voted, then we'll throw an exception, right? Else we'll just continue and take out everything. We'll update the vote whether this has been taken or not, and then we can actually increase the number of votes. And also in the proposal we haven't stored the let's say the particular vote into the system. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to create the votes and add it into the system. So let me show you how we'll do this. So let's say if the vote rate is equal to true, right? So we'll say p dot weighted is equal to true. Then we will add p dot votes into add it into the vote ID, right? So vote ID, so we have now the votes, the array where we are actually going to store the vote. So I will now declare the object which will say in support, and it will be actually equal to support proposal or whatever the options have been given, comma voter is equal to msg dot sender, right? So it will become the sender, and then we'll close the object. So what we're doing is we have declared the structure of the vote type, which is like this, the in support and the name, right? So in this support and the name we can actually put So let's say we can also put name is equal to the memsg.sender. So it just became the particular sender as a name. So now this vote ID can be actually also taken by actually adding into the latest vote ID. So latest vote ID will be like this. So we can have a p dot votes dot length plus plus. So remember, so whatever the length is there will be transferred into the vote ID, and then length will be increased because we are now going to add another vote into that. So p dot vote ID will go inside this and created a new vote. So number of votes will also be increased because we need to make sure that whatever how many time the particular proposal has been voted, we have just added into that. So number of votes are already increased, and then we don't have to track the current result because we are not going to count the current result based on the shares, and we'll tally it at the time of the execution. We don't have to do it now. So now the vote ID can be returned like this. Simple, right? So the system has become very much straight and simple. We took the proposal by the proposal number. We check whether the proposed particular address has actually already voted that proposal or not. And then we took the proposal ID, right? And then we took the proposal ID. We marked the voted as true. And then we took the proposal ID. And then we stored the entire vote into the votes array. So remember, the proposal has the votes, which actually nothing but the array of the vote, right? So we have stored it, and then we have increased the number of votes. Of course, this number of votes also depends on the number of shares, so we can actually ignore that as well. So that's also not required. So it's simple, the vote ID is done and the votes are done. Or you can actually technically represent this number of votes as a number of members who have voted, not the exact count of the vote. So next is the vote ID. That's it. So that's now our vote system is done. So I think the first part is done. We'll now continue and update our execute proposal, which is the key. We need to actually count the shareholding, then the actually number of votes, because now one person can vote more, and its weight can be more than the actually just one, which was there in the blockchain Congress. But in this, we will check the vote by its weight, not by the just count. So we'll continue it in the next lecture. Thank you.